Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever edition of what was going to be called something else. But just having a chat beforehand, Rich has come up with a few names, and one of them has just taken me by storm. He's absolutely nailed it. So, this is now going to be called Beyond the Box, which I think is very fitting considering that we're on the other side to the consumer. But this is going to be the home of all things for the hobby in the UK. Place that people can turn to get any news and just listen to me and Rich talk about our experiences within the hobby on a weekly basis. So I'm looking forward to it. If people don't know, Rich from Collectible Corner, they should know one of the best channel on TikTok for the hobby. Of course, give us a little bit of spiel about you, mate. As this is the first episode, rather than just reeling into the topics, yeah, just introduce yourself a little bit, how you found yourself here and involved in the hobby, what you now do, and where people can find you.
Mate, I love that. I mean, the introduction, I can't top that. It's beautiful. Thank you, mate. But yeah, no, I'm Rich. I am Collectible Corner. So Collectible Corner exists. We are a rip and ship and breaking platform on TikTok. Obviously, we're a lot more than that. You can find me at virtually every single card show in the UK, where I've had the privilege of bumping into loads of you that I'm sure are listening to before. We've started doing card shows across Europe and hopefully this year venturing into America as well, because not only do we do the rip and ship side of things, we also love, what comes beyond the box. Once the cards are outside of the box, it's that card collecting element of it as well. I started years ago, ironically, actually in Pokemon, when I got into the hobby originally, and that was actually kind of how I met Frankie back in the day. From Frankie when he was grading cards, and myself bumping into each other at London Card Show, and our friendship blossomed from there. But the Pokemon showed into much more cards. But once I really got my teeth back into sports cards again, that was it. That was on my heart lied. I didn't have the passion into Pokemon as I do, where this for me is a hobby. And I'm very, very blessed that over the years the hobby has become a business, and I find myself in a very fortunate position here today.
Yeah, I think if anyone doesn't know, I think your platform on TikTok or your, I don't know what you'd call it. Is it a platform? Is it a shop? Is it whatever it may be? But your world on TikTok, I think, is probably one of the most diverse and the one that offers every single part of the hobby. Where some people may have maybe strong opinions on what should be seen as value in the hobby. I think you give a real broad spectrum of product. I think people can find something for everyone. And that is really important. And one thing that I want to come across on this show that we're going to do is that while we all have our own take and we all have our own views, it's yours to enjoy however you want it to. So I will probably be Mr. Black and White and maybe a little bit ruthless at times on some products and topics that we're going to talk about. Rich's tends to be slightly more subtle and open-minded to the situation,
I'm
but I
shading
think
in the
that's going
colours.
to absolutely. I think it's going to give a great dynamic. So I'm massively looking forward to it. If anybody doesn't know who I am, I started off as the Pullman on YouTube. That went quite crazy. We had an amazing community. It was a lot of fun, and then that evolved into digital grading company when PSA had their huge backlog and people couldn't grade cards anymore, or didn't have many options to grade cards. And we sort of popped up. We pushed that business, and it went really well for a period of time. But our custom labels, which everybody preferred, that become a USP, which we
Yeah,
really didn't realize that was going to happen. We kind of felt it might be 90% standard label, 10% custom label. Everyone, I think, in the first 1,000 cards that we did, there might have been like 10 basic labels, and the rest were
that's
all custom
crazy. I
labels.
didn't know that. That's mental.
It was quite unbelievable, and unfortunately, custom labels, because we created them as unique pieces of artwork, they were taking 3 4 hours sometimes to do a single label, which was just too long and didn't work commercially. So we've re-evolved that business, which will be making an appearance again very, very soon. But at the moment where it's all happening is over on Stacked and Packed, which is my repack brand, which we're trying to offer much better value and also put it in a format that isn't a copy of American and the way that Americans do it. Um, it's more tailored to the UK market, and we've got the Hobby Fair Play initiative behind it to make sure that there's no nasty surprises, which some people find in repacks. So, yeah, it's going really well. Obviously, lots of them appearing on your channel on TikTok, Collectible
Absolutely.
Corner. So it's all good. I'm really enjoying it. Right. So, how we're going to start this every week, we're going to have the state of the hobby. Now, that's going to be from your perspective, my perspective, could be about your own personal experience, or it could be about the hobby in general. So I'll let you fire away first with where you think we are right now. And that could be aftermarket, could be value, could be product releases, absolutely anything. Your opinion, state of the hobby as it stands right now.
Yeah, no, mate. I think the hobby's in a really interesting place. It's in certainly its busiest period of the year. I feel this is we have that start of the year lull where we have no sets, no products, stuff like that. It's very very slow to begin with, and then it just hits this time. Usually just after Easter, just before the end of the season, where everything goes carnage. And obviously, in a very short space of time, we've had Chrome drop, Prizm drop. We've had select Premier League. We've had select La Liga. We've then had interim sets come out, and it's been a very very busy period and almost quite an overwhelming one for someone like myself. I find myself in between personal collections at the moment. I've got like my little ones on the go, but I'm trying to find that new thing that I'm trying to focus on and have as that new thing that I want to collect. There's only so many Marwan Fellaini cards out there that I can actually try and pick up. So outside of that now, trying to find my new thing, it's quite intimidating. But obviously with Chrome came Shay Lacey, and if anyone's been with watching my streams and any of my content for any period of time, I've always said this young kid Shay Lacey for Manchester United, I would back him to the hilt. His first Bowman cards have now dropped in the new Chrome set, so I've been eyeing up those a little bit, trying to work out if that's where I want to start committing again. I went very, very big on a Man United rookie before. As some people may know, I had a very, very large and extensive rookie Garnacho collection, which in the last 72 hours has, had an element of fragility added to it. But, it's still a personal collection of mine that I still love. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I think it's in a really interesting time. It's in a very, very busy time at the moment, this hobby. I have been able to pick up a couple of nice bits for my personal collection. My biggest pickup that's come in this week is my 1966 World Cup final ticket. Now, tickets is something that I'm really big into as well. But yeah, the 1966 World Cup final ticket was a big one for myself. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, really nice. That reminds me of when I always wanted a 1980 Cup final program for West Ham. So very similar thing, I would imagine. It's that not nostalgia because obviously we weren't there, but it's just the biggest moment in your team's history. So
Of course.
obviously it's not United, but it's England. I mean, what an amazing thing to have. And again, some people probably wouldn't understand tickets, but again, it's each to their own. And I think I had zero interest in tickets until I started seeing them on your tables, and it's certainly given me a little bit of a. I actually went digging following your ticket
Really?
situation and started to look because I had so many West Ham programs and tickets, and I actually found Joe Cole's debut. Not
That's cool.
massive, but still a nice little thing. So, yeah, I went looking back through my old programs and tickets just to see what I had in there. So, again, that's nice, isn't it? When you can look back at things you've collected that you've sort of put in a dark place that you forget about, and then you return to that later down the line. I think that's always a
Well,
really nice
I'll
thing.
tell you what, actually, I'll tell you now. I was going to give it to you at the show, but I'll tell you what a better time to tell you than now. I actually picked up a ticket for you the other day,
Ah,
and it's
nice.
currently in grading, and I'll tell you what it is. I picked up a ticket from Marky Noble's West Ham debut,
Love that.
which is, Mr. West Ham, in recent years.
Makes you
Um,
feel so old because I remember West Ham winning the playoffs and outside the stadium while they was showing off the playoff trophy, and I was singing Mark Noble, "You're only 17, you're better than Roy Keane." So the fact that he was 17 at the
that's
time
crazy.
then, and now where I am now, it just shows that we might be getting on a little bit, mate. So Yeah, for me, I think the hobby, there's some weird things going on. I think that the aftermarket is an amazing place to go and find cards right now. There are some really strong. I'm not going to totally slate how the aftermarket is right now and where the value of things are, because there are some absolutely crazy increases in certain players. Lamine Yamal increases
Yeah,
that we've seen have gone absolutely crazy. There's been some real big upside, so it's certainly not all downside. However, the things that are maybe not in everybody's mindset, there seem to be some amazing bargains out there right now. And if you can take the time and effort to go and have a look into the aftermarket, and dig around, I think you can find some real good bargains. We've spoken about, people like David Beckham,
yeah.
who has just dropped massively, and you can pick up a lot of his autographs now. People like Erling Haaland. I mean, can it get any lower right now for
It,
Erling Haaland?
he's a generational player, and his autos being, picking up patch autos for like 75, £80. Uh, 6 months ago, it was a nearly £200 card. There wasn't a world his base auto wasn't doing 150 quid, but you're right. You can pick
No.
him up for so cheap right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it just can't get lower. And there's been a
No,
few people like that before, actually, where there's been drops in price, which naturally causes people to lose interest in the player, no longer want to collect the player, almost liquidate sometimes, because you think, oh, get rid of them now before they're. But it can't get any lower for me. And when he comes back, and when City start getting on form again, and he starts to break records again, there's only one way that his value can go, and surely that's back up. So I think there's definitely a little bit of an opportunity there for anyone who's someone who's, what do I collect right now? Well, the best striker for me still in world football right now. It just makes perfect sense. And then the other thing for me at the moment is just, like you say, product releases. Um, we have got to that time where things go crazy. A really interesting talking point. Why do the manufacturers take so long? Look, going behind the scenes, there's obviously a
yeah,
lot they've got to get into place. There's obviously a lot they've got to think about, a lot they've got to consider. But we always see this time frame. Surely they can find a way where we're going to make it to the summer. All these releases come out, players start to move, players start to leave, like you said, with Garnacho, whatever it may be. And then these players are printed on the team that they used to play for,
yeah, yeah,
and then they move. And it doesn't mean a lot in America, does it? It's same with rookies and so on. I've always said that we desperately need in the UK a first season stamp,
yeah.
that if it's Declan Rice who goes to Arsenal, West Ham fans no longer want Declan Rice cards. Arsenal fans don't want West Ham Declan Rice cards. Well, Arsenal fans can now chase the first season for Arsenal.
Great idea.
Just makes sense to me. That's how football works in the UK. It isn't like that in America, and they have,
It, we're, we're
player
we're
FC, or
very
they follow a
tribal.
quarterback from one team to another, which is madness for me. But so I think the bigger the hobby gets in the UK, these are the things that they're going to have to start thinking about, and maybe get timings a little bit better, because they make the releases when there's a lot of changes happening. And as a collector, you see cards coming out, and you're like, well, that player doesn't even play for that team no more.
As fans, we are very tribal, aren't we? It's like there's a lot of times where you'd refuse to have somebody's. I think that Declan Rice is perfect. He's moved across London, for goodness sake. Arsenal fans have got their new £100 million midfielder. They're gonna want to collect the cards, and it's a great example. I think that first season badge is a really, really good idea, and I think would make the hobby a really, really interesting place for that. On that exact point you were just talking about, timings and things like that. I think this year we saw Immaculate got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. It didn't end up coming out until the end of February, start of March. It may even have been later than that. So what was happening is we were getting Lamine Yamal rookie cards coming out 6 months into his second season. And we're getting sets coming out with second year Yamals, but then a set's coming about back with rookie Yamals. And to me, that makes absolutely no sense at all. There has to be a way where you can sort out the schedule where this isn't happening. And I know there's going to be reasons for that. I know we've spoken on the phone before about some of the reasons you get these things, but surely it's very, very easy to bring a product to market and just have redemptions in there. Surely we can use the power of redemptions to make sure there's a flow. I'm well aware that the Arsenal team set, Arsenal Forever actually is a better example. They delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed on Arsenal Forever for releasing it because they were really desperate to get Arsene Wenger to sign. And they wanted to get Arsene Wenger in the set. And I believe that's the same reason now the Arsenal team set hasn't come out. Because we are waiting and waiting and waiting for certain people to sign to then release the set because they want to get those cards in, they want to get these things running. So there has to be ways around it, because you're right, we just get to the stage where we're finally getting sets come out. We're waiting for the Arsenal team set. The transfer window opens in 48 hours. Some of these players that haven't come out yet are going to go, and that is an issue.
Yeah, it is. And I guess if it was for QC and quality control
Yeah,
and sets were coming out and they're perfect
of course.
and there's absolutely no issues, then a bit of a different story. But they're not coming out perfect. We still have quality control issues.
Yeah.
We still have missing cards, supposedly. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Who knows? Um, but this is the thing. If sets were coming out and everything was spot on, you can almost justify that you've got to get it right, and then you can say that's fair enough. But I don't think they come out perfect anyway.
No.
Just get the sets released, get them done on time, get them done during the season. And look, we miss out on opportunities of players, like this season, of those big moments where you would see that market uplift. But because they
Sure.
don't come out until pretty much the season's done, we're now going to run into what you're going to see now is Prizm and Chrome have only just come out. We're going to talk about that next. It's a great way to move into that. But we've seen that release pump that you see, that release hype, and those release price hikes, if you like. The cards always sell for the most money when they literally just the product's just released. So that's why everybody says get them graded, get them turned around really quickly. I'm a bit different to that. I'm a bit more of a long term because I'm a collector. I actually like to collect things. It's not just a flip for me. But we've seen that release hype price point. We're now going to see an end of season dip where players aren't scoring goals, players aren't achieving things, players aren't, having hat tricks and these things that see these little pumps and these purple patches for players that do see card increases. So you're going to see Prizm and Chrome go from literally up there to down there just like that. And I think with a flagship product, I don't think that's right. And I don't think that's good enough, to be perfectly honest. So, but let's get on to those two products. So
Yeah, go on.
that moves us on to the next part of what we're going to talk about this evening. Chrome and Prizm, Chrome versus Prizm. Pretty much the two flagship releases for the two big manufacturers.
Safe to say.
You've been ripping through a lot of Chrome. I've ripped through a lot of Prizm. How have Chrome and Prizm been for you, and which one sort of takes the title of the best release this year?
Oh, I'm going to throw them up against each other. Okay. So, in my opinion, I think it's tricky. I mean, this year, you know me, I like pretty cards. One of the first places we will disagree on, I like pretty cards. And I think that Chrome this year, I think the inserts that they've produced are beautiful. I think the Wonder Kids look better than all the previous years. I think the Golazzos are the best looking that they've done. I think as a set, it's very pretty. The one thing I don't like, and I said this about UCC, obviously, when we first saw the designs, I don't like the name across the top. I think it looks a bit like matcha taxi, and this is supposed to be a premium product. Do you know what I mean? It's supposed to be premium. We're not talking, the real upper echelons of soccer product, but from this same design, it means we're going to have Sapphire looking like this, and it just feels a bit. I don't know. I just don't like the design with the name across the top. I like it nice and neat in the bottom corner. I think that looks good, as it's always been kind of before. But I think the inserts look incredible. I love the introduction of the first Bowman stuff. When you see that connection with the American sports of first Bowman, I think that's going to be a very, very big thing going forward that maybe people in the UK market don't understand right now. If you're not following like the global card market and things like that, I think that's going to be very, very big. Um, I think obviously the thing that happens is the checklists are so massive with Chrome and things like the autograph checklists and that they're crazy. But the one thing I will say is I think the chases have been fantastic. I think some of the players that they've had signing for the first time, people like George Weah, is a really nice addition. Having Sir Alex Ferguson as some chase autographs is crazy. As a Man United fan, that's great. I don't care what Cristiano Ronaldo card you want to offer me. I don't get the fact that there is a super fractal one of one Sir Alex Ferguson autograph out there, a Marks of Excellence on card auto. That's insane. I think the auto checklist is beautiful with like the combinations that they've done. They had that beautiful like Welsh trio I saw with like Bale for Spurs, Giggs for United, and Ian Rush for Liverpool. Beautiful. So I've been a big, big fan of Chrome this year. I've ripped a fair bit of Prizm. I think the Prizm design again is smart. It's clean. It's certainly not my favorite compared to previous years. I don't like the inserts this year. I think the auto checklist is quite good. As in, I think the auto checklist is very, very strong. But what I've found is when I'm ripping boxes, it's the lower 20% of that checklist is very, very heavily weighted. And you get a lot of duplicates on the autographs and things like that. For me, Prizm is always that slightly. I'm a Panini over tops guy. I think in the fact that I think in the grandest scheme of things, when I weigh up the premium versus the premium and stuff like that all the way through, I think I'm going to answer the question on the verses here quite easily. I've been a little bit more disappointed with Prizm this year versus Chrome. I know if I was walking into a shop, which hobby box I would pick off the shelf for sure. There've been really, really interesting releases. I've always said it, the true gold rookies that you can get from Prizm, they're the chases for me. Give me a true gold rookie over a black refractor from Chrome every single day of the week. Every day of the week. When we start talking, that's where I'd be going. So they're both big products. They're both nice. The checklists are awesome. But for me, on the two, Chrome edges it this year on my side.
Yeah, nice. I'm having a look at the cards that you've spoken about in front of me now, and how much people can see. But there is a Zaire Emery. Well, my camera's on move around mode, but there's a Zaire Emery base. I'm not a fan of the base at all. Like you said, the name, it doesn't look. It looks cheap.
Yeah.
One thing that tops annoy me with, they love a border. Why do they love
Yeah,
borders so much?
that's a
It's
fair shout.
it's the most obvious way to get a lower centering grade. Like they
Yeah.
literally just kill centering grading for the entire set. But then I have the Wonder Kids insert here for your United man Obi, and that's a lovely design. A little futuristic for me. You know, I've always had a little bit of an issue with Inception. I think Inception and Deco, actually, I think they're not timeless designs. I think they're designs that will date. And that's always been my argument to why I like a rookie refractor in a 10, because I just think they're timeless. They're just super clean. It's never going to go out of date. The designs are never going to look dated. So that's why I like that. I mean, if I'm looking at the base design of Prism and Chrome, give me Prism all day long.
Yeah.
It's far, far superior in terms of a base card. But like you said, I did like the mangas, if I'm honest. I thought the mangas were the biggest step forward I've seen in Prism for a while. Mangas before almost looked like a half-assed attempt at a manga, whereas this year it looked like true Japanese anime, kind of like they went all out for it.
Yeah.
So I liked that. I thought that was good. And actually, as I was pulling them, they looked more premium, I thought, than they'd ever looked. And I think that actually reflected in the initial price point of the mangas. They were certainly higher than normal, starting to correct themselves a little bit now. And we've seen a bit of a drop. But
Yeah.
the Galazzo from Tops, I'm looking at here. So Galazzo, the 2020 Eric Cantona Galazzo, that was like my dream chase. Never managed to get my hands on one. Did find someone who had one, didn't want to sell it to me. Very sore subject. Still rue that now. Just maybe I should have paid more and got it done. Um, but yeah, in terms of the base Prism for me, aside from that, if you look at, like you say, Autos George Weah, what a brilliant addition that is for somebody like from my age group, my era. He was just that goal that he scored for Milan, where he run the entire length of the pitch. That was just playground legend status for so long. If anyone run the length of the playground and scored, it was you'd just done a George Weah. So I loved that. That was brilliant. So yeah, I mean, Tops are getting a lot right at the moment with the types of people they're trying to get to sign. They're trying to push things. They're trying to find those people who haven't signed before, which are always amazing when you get a new signer. We've spoke about Haaland. I remember back to when somebody said Haaland said he's never going to sign again in cards, and they was going around trying to buy as much Haaland as possible. Within 6 months, he's signing every single set, and his autographs are everywhere. So you just can't odds it. You never know how it's going to go. But I mean, if they could get a Salah auto done, I think that could be one of the biggest things that you'd ever see. He'll never do it, but that would be the game changer, I think. So yeah, no, I kind of echo what you said there. To be honest, I think Tops probably nips it for me. Chrome, just about. If I'm honest, I feel like Prism almost just ignored Premier League this year. And it wouldn't surprise me if they went, let's do a quick job and let's focus on the World Cup.
I think it's
That's round
Club
the
World
corner.
Cup because the Club World Cup set's due out. They've got that. They're doing a set for the Club World Cup.
And they've obviously been given serious money to push that
Yeah,
because my boys found the sticker album of Club World Cup the other day in the shop, and wow, have they gone all out for a sticker album.
yeah,
Like
they
that's the
whipped one
most
up.
effort I've seen in a sticker album for like I can't tell you how long. They've literally tried everything, and even the thought they've put behind it of having a page in the middle where you can build your dream team and stick stickers on it and make your own. They've not put that much effort into a sticker album in forever.
No,
So I'm
you
so
never see that
impressed with
with a
it.
World Cup, do you, or anything like that? And even those you've never seen that. It's really interesting.
Even the last Euros was terrible. It was awful. I did it with a boy. It was a terrible sticker album. But this one has been, and the World Cup, the Messi one was just terrible. Those little slight colour variations and stuff like that. It just none of it made any sense. It wasn't properly thought through.
I, ju-
This
I'm
one they've done
This is
good.
where I flip on you a little bit. I become the old. For me, sticker albums, keep it simple. I don't want variations. I don't want. For me, I just want 15 players from that nation with a headshot image for me to collect. When it comes to a Panini sticker album, that's what it is. If you want the variations and the fancy, sweet, let's do an adrenaline card set. Let's do that in Prism. For me, I'm old school. Like for me, Panini stickers they're sacred.
I'm
I
with you. I didn't
don't
get
mess
it.
with them.
So you get a colour. What one do you stick in the album?
There you go.
Do you know, it's like you don't want loads of different colours all the way through. It'd be a nightmare. So I didn't really kind of. I mean, certainly there were players there's some messy stickers in there on the rarer colour backgrounds that are a pretty penny now. So from a collector's point of view, I guess it's hit the mark there. But yeah, for me, I'm like you. I mean, they used to really 95, 96, 97, 98 were just superb. And then after that, it sort of went downhill. And that was obviously the Merlin sticker albums. I loved the 3D kits, the home and away kits. They were
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. That they really did come up with some nice stuff. But yeah, I thought this year's they've clearly been given a lot of backing to go and put something together properly. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something very, very similar from the set that's going to come out. And then, like I said, the World Cup, this is the World Cup. I mean, if
Yes.
anyone doesn't know, USA 94, if you wasn't old enough to remember that, it was just, it took over everything. I remember getting picked up from school, being rushed home to watch Ireland in their first, like the World Cup. And it was just magical everywhere you turned. If you went to the petrol garage, there was World Cup stuff and stuff given away, and there was the mini footballs that were iconic, and it was just brilliant. So I think the last couple of tournaments, obviously with COVID and stuff like that, it never really it couldn't catch fire like it normally does. But I think this one is going to capture the imagination of everyone again, and I'm hopeful that Panini have maybe not put the attention into EPL Prison this year because they're going to go all out for the World Cup.
I think let's be honest that they have the licensing rights for what could be the biggest soccer card set ever. Now I say that with the chest, genuinely. They have the potential to produce. I want to see if they do it right. I want to see Prism on top. I want to see Eminence come back. Let's get another national treasures. I think they're going to go crazy on this. It's their last chance to really milk the soccer licensing. I am disappointed that I think they've let the Premier League slip because as of it stands on the licensing situation, it's the last ever Premier League Prism. Unless some crazy thing comes around and Tops, who are backed by Fanatics, who have got bottomless pits, don't renew it and pay the money required, this was the last ever Premier League Prism. And it felt lackluster. And, me and you, it goes along the lines of something me and you have always said. It just sometimes the teams aren't there at the moment. There's no one in that Man United squad that I would look at and go, legend. They're just not there. But what you should be doing is a club like that have got enough legends, you know, and that's where you need to be going. Every team needs to have that big chase of that person that's important to them, and that will make it appealing to everyone. And I just don't think we have that. They don't put enough effort into making sure there's that big chase for every single person. It's all about, well, let's give Man United 8 chases because Man United have got the biggest market globally, and if we pull big cards for that, they'll be easy to sell. It's not what it's about. It's not always about the flip, like you've said. Some people like to collect, and there isn't that thing for those collectors. What is a you know? I'll ask you the question. As a collector and a West Ham fan in Prism this year, what is there for you to chase?
Yeah, no, there's nothing. They've missed all of our biggest rookies. They totally missed our biggest rookies. We've got Tony Cottee again as the auto. It's better than Ravzan Rat, who barely played a game for West Ham. It is better than that. But West Ham's always neglected in Prism. Whoever's involved in Prism must be a Tottenham fan. They must be, because they do West Ham dirty every single year. We've got some really good rookies who, they could have easily chosen for us and given us that chase, and they didn't. And then, like you say, we've got there's so many West Ham iconic players that we'd go crazy for, whether it be Paolo Di Canio. They just don't. Yeah, I mean, go and get Dimitri Payet. I mean, it would be massive for us. It would be. I know that some people saw him as a bit of a snake, but that's all settled down now. But yeah, there's so many players that they could go. And the thing about West Ham is there's plenty of players who weren't massive players, and I could start reeling them off that we would still love to have, whether that be Marlon Harewood, James Collins. These are still iconic club
Yeah,
heroes that are out there doing meet and greets evenings and clearly would be very happy to do a signing for a few quid. So, it's not like all those legends are like superstar statuses like some Man United ones who really don't need to go and sign some autographs for some money. With
yeah, of course.
West Ham, it's easy. There's normally 6, 7 of them out every single week at, like I say, these West Ham meet and greets. So again, it's just laziness for me. So
It's a
yeah,
shame.
it is frustrating, very frustrating.
It is a shame 'cause, yeah, you feel like they've rumbled the bag a bit. So, if I think you're right. I think you just need to really hope that they're putting all the eggs into the World Cup because it's going to be it should be the biggest World Cup of my lifetime. The Americans know how to put on a show. Let's be very, very serious. Um, it's links into something I've been saying for a long time where I'm investing a lot at the moment into football cards, soccer cards with US national team jerseys because I think it's just going to really fuel that soccer market in the US. And when the World Cup lands, they're going to want their local heroes in their own jerseys. And I think that's just going to, I think the US card market's going to go crazy
It
because,
will, and like you said, it is the biggest opportunity that they've got to make the biggest set of all time because there's never been more attention on soccer cards than there has been right now.
absolutely.
So it is the opportunity. So fingers crossed it all goes the right way. Right, let's move on. The London Card Show. The show, still the show. We're
For
not going to
sure.
talk about the Excel show today. We're going to leave that for another episode. However, let's look back at May's London Card Show. Friday, introduction.
Yeah.
I think we all thought, not sure how it's going to go. Everyone's at work. How busy will it be? What a surprise.
Mate, I booked it because if I wasn't 45 minutes down the road and I could there and back it in the day and it was going to be an extra night in a hotel, I never would have bothered. I'll be honest enough. And do you know what? I've said this to Harry himself. I said to him, I was terrified and I thought, it opens at 2, 2 till 5 is going to be dead. And from 5 till 8, it'll be booming. It was the opposite. I couldn't believe it. It was so busy from the minute it opened through till about 6 o'clock when everyone expected it to get busy. Actually, it kind of died off. It was almost like everyone had taken a half day off work. It was so busy. It was such, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Genuinely, a really, really pleasant surprise on how, whether that's just a massive credit to Harry and the rest of the team because they just got the marketing on it right and everything like that. I was very happily proven wrong on the Friday element, and have already booked again to come to the next Friday in August because off the back of everything I saw, it was an absolute no-brainer to make sure I was there again. And I think you found it the same.
Yeah, exactly the same. And if anything, the people that were there on a Friday were the serious people. It was buyers,
Yeah.
it was collectors, it was people who wanted to almost go and have a bit more space. Everyone was there, I felt, for a purpose, for a reason. Everyone turned up looking for something. Everyone wanted to either buy, trade, get this, get that, sell a part of their collection, whatever it was. I feel everyone had, it wasn't browsers, it wasn't full of a room of people just looking.
No, it was very much, it was very much, sometimes of the weekend it's a little bit, oh, what should we do with the kids? Oh, I think round the corner they've got something at Sandown. Should we go take them over there? You know, and that's cool because do you know what? They get the opportunity to do a meet and greet with a professional footballer. They've always got someone on the stage. They can hear Jason Page sing the Pokemon theme tune, it's things like that. But yeah, the Friday, I think you're right. It was very concentrated. I think I did my best buy-in on the Friday. I picked up a couple of absolutely incredible cards. One of which I have got to hand here. I've got to show it. Like, although the camera's going to pick it up, but the Maradona to 5 auto, that beautiful color match, 3 of 5, the purple and blue on the purple and blue. When cards like that are coming up and being put on the table in front of you, you know it's going to be a good day. It's as
Yeah,
simple as
no,
that.
very true. And that actually, to be honest, it set the tone, I feel, for the rest of the weekend.
Yes.
Every single person I spoke to said the best London card show they've had
Yeah.
either ever, or for people who've been going for a long time, for a very long time.
Yes. It was my best, and I've done the last 7 or 8 in a row. But it was certainly my best London card show, just on the whole. And I don't just mean that from a business point of view and like how successful it was for me as a business. I mean, just the vibes. To use the term, the vibes were right, the people were right. Everything just seemed right. I had a good time and a busy time, and that's spot on. That makes a 3-day working weekend a lot easier when everything just falls into play. And genuinely, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, probably the best show I've done to date.
And I'm going to give the flowers to London Card Show and Harry for getting a lot right this time.
Yes,
I think that they deserve credit, but do you know what? I'm also going to give credit to. I think us as vendors also have started to understand and learn what you need to do at a card show.
yeah,
I think before people would rock up and not be organised, not be sorted, and I've always said it to you that I think a lot of people who collect cards, whether you like it or not, can be slightly socially awkward. They're not as open to interact at times and sometimes have a little bit of anxiety there. So you see people go up to tables and they glance. And I've said to you, I learned this time that I know when I go to a show with single cards that you must have them in team order. If
yeah,
it's easy for someone to find their team, it makes your life it's a game changer. All of a sudden everyone aims for their team, can find what they want, job done. When you see people, they look and they glance across the table, and if something doesn't catch their eye, and the stacked and packed team sets that we had, we didn't have the team's logo on them. Obviously we can't because of
of
copyright
course.
and licensing and everything else. Um, but there's nothing wrong with me having a price laminated card that has the team's logo on it. And honestly, that's the thing that catches people's eyes. People were looking across the table and then would ask, "Have you got any Arsenal?" Well, it's there. Like you've
Yeah,
been looking at it for the last 10 minutes. It,
Gunners.
yet you literally have to put it in front of people. And I just think that people are learning more and more that people do want to flick through value boxes, and that can be the bread and butter of your show and your
Yes,
time there. And then you also need to lay your cases out right with the right things and the right items and everything else. So I think I'm going to give a pat on the back to the UK for finally catching up and understanding the hobby better than we ever have done, and maybe not quite catching up with the Americans, but we're on our way.
we're working
We're
on it.
starting to learn.
Absolutely working on it. Like I say, I think every year it gets better and better. I think you're absolutely right. On exactly the point you've made, I've learned the value. I always make sure that I've got 2 or 3 binders full. People love a flick through. They love their singles. That's what people want to do. They want to buy their cards grading themselves. Sweet, absolutely. you know, and you're absolutely right. Those binders need to be in order, and come a Sunday, it's a little bit messy because people are lazy. They take the card out, they've turned the page, decided they don't want to put it back wherever. It gets a little bit messy, but that's on me to try and keep up and keep it looking smart. But I think you're absolutely right, mate. I think you've nailed that on the head. I think the show itself is brilliant. I think the vendors have done a good job, and I think people know what they're coming for. And I've done videos before about what I think you should do as someone that's attending a card show, my top 5 tips, and being prepared is so big. Know what you're wanting to look for. And the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to ask, because a lot of the time we know what we've got, and you come to me and say, do you have any Toby Collier rookies? I might have bought one 10 minutes ago and it hasn't gone out yet. That's
Yeah.
a big thing as well. And I think that's something that's really, really cool, is just trying to communicate, and speaking at these things is wicked. But I think you're absolutely right, mate. I think a congratulations to the UK is nailed
Mm.
on this.
And that works both ways, though, don't it? As a consumer or somebody, an exhibitor walking around, don't be afraid to ask. But as a vendor, if somebody's standing in front of you looking at your table, don't be afraid to ask, is there
Mm,
anything that you're looking for in particular? It's a
1000%.
massively important thing. The amount of people who have walked up to a table and they're about to walk away and you ask that question, you go, yes, I've got exactly what you're looking for. I cannot believe this. My one story from the London Card Show, the first person who looked at my table, literally looking, saw the boxing on the stacked and packed different levels of our soccer repacks, mentioned boxing, and I just for whatever reason said, "Oh, I've got a Ricky Hatton, Paulie Malignaggi patch. Oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for today." Probably the only person in the UK with one of those cards, and it was the one card that I didn't take to the show with me, which was absolutely ridiculous. So the one card that somebody was looking for that I wouldn't have known if I didn't get onto that topic, I actually had, but didn't have it on me at the time, which was ridiculous. So
Crazy
take
chances.
everything with you is the lesson as well, mate. Right, let's move on. Last topic before a final little roundup and maybe anything else that we want to add. You've been, I haven't yet. I almost went last week with a boy, but didn't get round to it. Fanatics store opening in London. What's your thoughts?
Wow, what a talking point. We got to take this from the top. So taking it from the top, um, it's massive. It's, I think, having, it's really, really good seeing lots of little card shops around the UK. It's fantastic. There's more and more opening all the time, and I think that's fantastic for the hobby. This was obviously going to be the big flagship on Regent Street. Mental, you know. I went down on the opening week, and if you haven't been already, I do think it's well worth checking out. It's a fantastically good looking store. All of the products are out, the memorabilia is out, the signed Michael Schumacher helmets, the F1 race suits, the signed footballs, the shirts, the little ripping area. You've got the make your own cards, there's a breaking booth, there's a beautiful selection and array of singles in the middle. It aesthetically, it's beautiful. Um, it was branded as a store for the collector, for the hobby. Yeah, we can touch on that in a bit more detail, I suppose. Um, I think its existence is fantastic. I think it's very good. The one thing that I think needs to work on is how it's then integrated with the hobby. At the moment, it feels like it's the right thing, but being done wrong. Now, I don't know if that makes sense. I always say to everyone, you've got to go down and check it out. I think it's well worth going down and checking out. If you're into your cards, it's worth going to. Yeah. But I think if it's going to be that central hub that I think it wants it to be, there's a lot of changes that I personally would make. There's been the controversies around things they've done already. Um, and yeah, I know you've got your opinions as well, mate. I'll let you kick off, and I'll fill in with.
Well, it would be very easy to go on a rant right now. The state of the UK hobby, it became down to multiple factors, I think. I think the true essence of the hobby got lost.
Yeah,
I think we moved into a gambling, more of a gambling environment or a gambling culture in the hobby than we ever had done. Collecting went out the window. I actually think what plays a big part in that is the lack of interest in PSA 9 cards in the UK. I think that tells you
1000%.
everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. If you get a quarterback in America and it's PSA 9, it still has value and more value than raw value. We got to the point in the UK where any soccer card that was a PSA 9, some people were even saying actually that makes it worth less than raw value because there's no chance that it gets a 10. Absolute madness. Like, that isn't what it should be about. And, you know, it seemed like everything was to be quick buck, desperately just try and make money, whether it be on business side, whether it be people like who go online streaming, whether it be people who want to rip something to try and make a profit, whether it be people who enter breaks to try and make a profit. All round, that's what happened. And I think there is this culture of it's only the big boys that matter. It's only the big players that matter. It's only the big cards that matter. And that's just not what the hobby's about. I get so much enjoyment. And from 2020, 2021, when I started filling binders of Topps Chrome, I get so much enjoyment from sitting there and putting binders together. I tell you how you know that this is the true essence of the hobby, because my boy sits there with my binders and puts team pages together and picks out all his favourite cards, what he deems as the best cards that he's got, and puts them all in the binder, lines them all up. He loves a binder, loves it, whether it be match attacks, or it be adrenaline, whether it be getting my cards from out the drawers back there and sticking them in teams and building these little squads and everything else. Loves it. That is what the hobby is about. It's about collecting. And the world's worst thing that could happen is that someone comes along and adds more ego than ever to the hobby. And it was like, I really felt there was a massive opportunity for somebody to come in and drag the hobby back into the correct direction, get people collecting, get people actually appreciating the hobby again. And for me, it's just gone the other way. It's been so ego driven. And look, that's great for views. It's good for clicks. It's good for awareness. And all of that stuff's great. But you see a lot of these people who pop up, they sort of get involved and then leave after 5 minutes. And it has to be more organic. And I feel like there was an opportunity to get focused more on the true collectors in the UK and pull all those people together and do things in the right way, instead of it starting off with Lewis Hamilton and there being a load of people who have got zero interest, let's be honest, in cards.
No one
So
was there. No one was there for a card shop, were they? They were
no,
there to try and see Lewis Hamilton, and that looks great on Instagram for Fanatics. And because look at all of these people outside our store. How
yeah,
many people are there outside that store if you haven't got a 7-time world champion?
yeah, and it's already screaming like an old boys club. You know, you've got the releases. Well, come on, why not put that out there to collectors? Why not put that out there to the average Joe? Why not put that out there and inspire other people? Why not give people who really care an opportunity to go to a release night, who really actually are proper collectors? Why does it have to be invitation only to influencers and all this sort of stuff? I just want to see them focus on the collector a bit more and quickly.
Do you know what I'd love to see? It's something like they go to all their breakers and people like that, and they give each of these breakers 5 tickets to these events to give to the people that are buying into these products.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely, mate.
those are the people that you want at this launch event. You know, don't invite the influencers and the breaker themselves, because they're going to buy the products regardless. They're going to be buying the products regardless to break the product. These influencers are turning up for a free croissant and an opportunity to create a video, which, you know, that gives them content to create and put out. Fantastic. And it's great marketing because it puts it in front of the eyes of a lot of people. And I get why I do it. But I'd love to be able to say, you know, I get given 5 tickets and I can go to 5 of the guys who are in my stream all the time, who I know are buying in all the time because they are collectors, they are card people. Do you know what, mate? Here's a ticket. Get yourself into London. Rio Ferdinand's going to be there. Go get yourself a selfie with the player and be one of the first people to have a look at this new product. And then once you've had a look, let me know what you think on stream next week and we'll run some breaks. I'd love that. I don't need to be there. but these people are the ones that need to be there because that's your audience. The people that you're putting in they're going to buy it anyway. They're not the consumer. They're the
Yeah.
middleman. You know, that's the thing for me.
Couldn't agree more. And they're the people who are spending their hard earned cash, their hard earned money, and deserve some of these opportunities.
Yeah.
And like you've just hit the nail on the head there, mate, and why businesses, and it's not just Fanatics that have done it's every business, manufacturer, it's how the hobby's been for such a long time. It's old boys club, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. There's favoured people, and there's no real fault for the end collector. There's no one sitting there. It's all about ego, like you say. It's all about influencer marketing. It's all of these things. Well, what about the collector? Once in a while, just have a think. Just sit there and come up with something that all those people who spend their hard-earned money and quite often spend, you know, money that not necessarily that they haven't got, but some people spend really good money, and it ain't even about the amount. It's
Yeah.
about how much anyone can afford, and some
Of
people
course.
spend every penny that they can have spare on this hobby. That's what they do,
Yeah.
and those people deserve opportunities to get involved as well. So, yeah, for me, that it's all a good thing. It's only going to help grow everything. That's good for us. That's good for everybody. Um, but I just also feel that when you've got such a machine, and we can talk about it, we'll save this for next week, but we've seen the buyback, we've seen what they're
Yeah.
offering people for their cards. It's just, you can't have it all. Um, give a little back, give a
Yeah.
little bit. That's all we're asking.
I think you're right, and that's my big thing. And like I say, you need, and please, this is what I mean. I don't think you need the influencers. You need that because they will bring eyes from their audiences, and a sales funnel exists, and that influencer puts it in front of 10,000 people because they have that kind of viewership base. If they convert 1% of those into a buying customer, it's 100. You need that, but it can't just be that, and that's where I think there needs to be that. If this new store is for the collector, you need those people that have that influence, and I'm all for them because I think they're really, really good for the hobby in a capacity. And maybe there's a disagreement in opinion here. I think you need some element of it. I think it's important, but you do need the target audience that already exists need to be rewarded for the loyalty. They need to be rewarded for being that customer base. Um, it yeah, at the end of the day, the entire hobby, the entire industry doesn't exist without them. And yes, these influencers bring in the new people to the hobby, but we need to remember the guys that are already here as well. And I think this, for the hobby store, is a perfect opportunity for these guys to start being rewarded. And I think Tops and Fanatics need to find a way to do that. And I think that's really, really important to see if they can find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well, that pretty much brings us to the hour mark. So, good time
Yeah,
to call it a day there. I think we've covered a lot. I think there's still so much more that we need to cover. You could almost go on forever and ever with this stuff, but it's good that we can hold some stuff back and go again next week. So I've massively enjoyed it. It certainly helps me get a lot off my chest. That's why also
absolutely.
people may know me from the football world of YouTube, because I also get stuff off my chest with regards to my football team on YouTube as well. But this is a great place to get the just the therapy of talking it through and discussing it. And yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this, because it would almost be like my little counselling session for the week with regards to the hobby. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I will we'll both see you back in episode 2.
Look forward to it. See you in a bit.